Hello, this is Carrie Vacanti with Stampiphany, a great stampin' idea. When I looked at the new catalog, I found this card and just fell in love with it. I just think it's so adorable with the carrots and the little crate that I wanted to try and figure out how to make it. So this is what I think, or how I think they made it. Here are the products that I used to try to recreate this card. The Woodworks stamp set. This is the Bouquet Bunch Framelit set, and I just used this leaf for my carrot tops. And you'll also need, of course, the wood crate framelits, and you just cut one and then one little bit of it out, and you'll see that later on in the video what we need. You'll also need the new pretty label and a black marker. To start off, we'll go ahead and pull out our paper. This is some of our new wood textures. It comes in a 6x6 pack with all these different wood colors and textures. Just beautiful, beautiful paper. And a note card, which is 7x5, or folded, it's 3.5x5. So that designer series paper there, the wood textured paper, is actually 3.5x5. So it would go across. And then of course a not paper pumpkin, I love paper pumpkin, but pumpkin pie piece, and it does not need to look like Florida. I'm going to go ahead and glue or snail this onto the card front and just get that knocked out. And once that's done, we can just put that off to the side because we really won't need that until later. So let's move on to making our crate. To make this easier to see on camera, because it's kind of hard to see the measurements on the wood crate because we're using a darker color for the actual crate, I made this template just out of some white copy paper. And you can see the measurements there. The dashed lines that you see, that's the framelit. We need 2 of those little sides right there. So you can get one of these out of one 6x6. So this piece right at the bottom here is a 1/2 inch from the bottom score mark. So we're going to actually trim that off, and then each little side here is going to be 1/8 of an inch from the score mark. Now this framelit cuts and scores for you. We're just going to end up adding another score mark 1/8 of an inch away from the score mark that the framelit already makes for you. So here's one wood crate that I've already cut out, and I've glued that little side piece onto. So I'm going to trim off the bottom first, and we're going to do it at a 1/2 inch because we don't need a lot of it, but we do need enough to glue the flaps on the back. So I'm going to trim that a little bit off, and that will leave a little bit of this little tab on the bottom here, and we don't need that. So you can get out your snips if you want to and just trim that off. I'm not going to get my snips out for this. I'm just going to use my paper cutter just to take that off really quick. So that's how our bottom looks. Now we're going to score our new 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to take my wood crate, I'm going to go all the way to the very last tick just before 5. So it's basically 4 and 15/16. I'm going to take my bone folder, or you can use your scoring blade, whichever you're comfortable with. I'm going to score that, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to score it at the same place. And you saw me flip it up like that, and that's just so I could make sure that my crate was right on the correct line there. And again, I'm going to score it, and this will make it so my crate all the way around is 1/8 of an inch deep. So now we've got to do this bottom piece, and that actually goes to 1 7/8, and we'll score it there. And it's nice to have this bottom piece just a little bit longer because it does give, when you wrap the pieces around, that piece right there, it does give it a place to stick. So it's kind of nice that way. So here I'm just making sure all my score marks and my folds are correct. I'm going to grab my silicone mat here and just add some snail. You could use liquid glue for this part if you want to, and I do use liquid glue in a little bit. But for this piece, I just needed to tack the box together so I could put it on the front of my card. And you want to make sure that you line up the bottom here with your side pieces. That way everything's kind of flush and in line with each other. So you're basically making a crate, but it's a lot flatter. It's just 1/8 of an inch so it doesn't stick out. I had made this where it was 1/4 of an inch deep, but I felt it was too deep and it would get crushed in the mail. So I don't know how this mails, but we can give it a try. So now we're going to glue our crate on the front, and you can use snail, fast fuse, tear tape, whatever you'd like to use. I'm just going to use some Tombow multi-purpose glue, I did get a little bit much out there, so this of course proves why my fingers are constantly sticky, and that's because I'm just always getting them messy. So I'm just going to spread that around a little bit because I had a little bit too much on that right side, but that's okay, it just spreads it around and we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the front of my note card that we had put together earlier. And once my fingers are clean, I can go ahead and make sure it's positioned where I want. I want to try to get it about in the middle, and you can see it's about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch from the bottom there, because remember we have to leave room for our carrots to come out the top of the crate. So now that's ready to go. Let's go ahead and work on our carrots. And I was just laughing as I was watching this video when I was editing it that my piece of pumpkin pie cardstock looks like Florida. And I have family in Florida, so hi family. I'm taking my pretty label, and believe it or not, this is what the carrots came out of. This was so fun when I hope the light bulb goes on in your head like it did for mine, because when I was trying to figure out how they got the carrots and the light bulb went off, I was like, wow, whether this is how they actually did it or not, I don't know, but this is what worked for me. So you don't have to do this step. I'm just showing you for this video where I cut the label to make the carrot shape. And I just went from the bottom scalloped there and went to the top to the second scallop. So as you can see, I start here at the bottom and I taper outward as I go. So I actually so it makes it wider at the top than it is at the bottom. So hopefully that helps. It's a little hard to explain. And then the top here, you can leave it or you can trim it off. I chose to trim it off because I am trying to reproduce the card that I see in the catalog. But you could leave it off or on or do whatever you'd like to do. The catalog is supposed to be inspiration, and I always feel that it is. I felt this catalog had a lot of really great cards in it that I'm really excited about trying. And if there's one in there that you'd like to see me try and do, please by all means leave a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. So this is our third carrot here. We're going to go ahead and cut that, the last pieces off of this one. And you see me flip it over each time, and that's only for my brain. I was worried that I wouldn't cut it correctly unless I just went the same way each time. Maybe I'm getting old, I don't know. But now that we have all our carrots cut, we're going to go ahead and add just a little bit of detail. And to me, it looked like they had taken perhaps a black marker and just squiggled some little black lines to add some dimension to our carrots. So really, don't try to do super straight lines, just kind of random. I would say sloppy, but don't try to be super neat about it. And once those lines are on there, you're ready to put your carrot tops on there. And that's where those leaves from the bouquet punch come. Now what I had done to do all 3 carrots is I had die cut 6 of these leaves in Pear Pizzazz, and I did 2 or 3 in garden green. And you don't need the entire thing. You can trim off the excess stem if you want to, and you can really make these as long or as short as you like. I was just trying to copy the one that they did in the catalog, so I'm going to trim off a little bit more here and just use, you could use glue dots or a little bit of liquid glue. I'd be careful with the glue dots so they don't show as much. Try to use just a little bit of glue just to get them to stick, because you don't want, if you use any kind of adhesive that comes out and doesn't dry all the way, it might stick to the envelope when you put it in there, and you don't want it to get stuck in there. So then I'm taking some of my garden green, and I'll just put that over the top of my Pear Pizzazz leaf, but I'll make it off to the side so they're not lined up. We don't want them lined up. We want to give it a kind of like a nice fern, not a fern look, but just kind of a spread out bushy feel, like you would a real carrot top. You know how they spread out. Once you get all of those done and they're dry, you can start putting your carrots in your crate. And I just did a couple of them with the snail, and I raised one of them up with some dimensionals. So here's the finished card, and I know they go beyond, but I've just got the carrots in here. Now the little greeting here was just on basic black cardstock. The greeting is with that wood crate stamp set, and I just stamped it with white craft ink is all I did. And then to finish the card off, I just have a little bow here made with our linen thread, and I'll just put a tiny little dot of my liquid glue there, and glue my bow on. I hope you enjoyed this card. I really do love trying to figure out how they make this stuff in the catalog. If there's one you'd like to see, feel free to comment below and let me know. I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.